Hi, everybody. Um, that mini painting grot coming back at you. It's been a little bit. So, and also, you probably, for those of you that astute in the crowd, realize that this isn't the normal voice of that mini painting grot. This is his father, who he talks about from time to time. My name's Al. As Paul Simon said, you can call me Al. This is the first installment that I hope to be doing on a regular basis, called Armies on Parade, or as I like to say, rantings and ramblings, because I do have a tendency to go off on a tangent, and I apologize for that in advance. So first up, if you look, this is an old army, an oldie but goodie, called Chaos Dwarves. Gaetano calls them Abyssal Dwarves. We primarily play Age of Fantasy, one-page rules, and these fellas are actually pretty good. I've had very good success with them. But if you look, you can see that there's a lot more than Chaos Dwarves out here, because I figure in an empire, there's a lot of guys out here that don't necessarily want to be here, or there's allies, or there's a whole bunch of different things going on. So as you can see, it's a vast majority of it's a vast group of races that I think are more indicative of what an empire would look like. Now, first up, we have this fella here, who is the Chaos Dwarf Lord. He is very old, as you can tell. He's a figure that we've had a few of, so I decided to make him the Jefe, because he's very much somebody who would be leading with an iron hand. And I took the back banner off of him because I didn't like the way it looked on him. I've kept some on, I've taken some off, just, But this guy here, I gave them red beards, the nobles, because I thought it would make them stand out a little bit. You can see up close. Is a fun figure to paint. I put him on a round base because I wanted him to be able to stand out a little bit. This second in command is a Chaos Dwarf Sorcerer. And for those of us who have been following the Chaos Dwarf since the beginning, they turn to stone the more magic they use, because it's dark magic. And this guy's a young fella. He hasn't started turning to stone yet. And he is a huge part of this army, as you'll see, because there's a lot of creations that he's pulled out and put together and done all kinds of dastardly things, because he is a villain after all. I mean, look at the tusks. That kind of gives it away. So here's the first group of Chaos Dwarfs. These are figures are probably 40 years old. They are Chaos Dwarves with blunderbusses. And as I said, as I found out last week, these fellas can really kick out a lot of damage. In one page, they get 2 shots each at 18-inch range. So this is 20 shots coming at you. They can rip the enemy apart. And my poor wood elves found out the hard way. These fellas here, it's all about the hats, okay? If you're a Chaos Dwarf player, you like the hats or you don't like the hats, because they're so predominant. I mean, they're basically the same size as the rest of the figure. So, and as I say, I really like the idea that these guys are in the army, but there's not that many of them. So I gave them all like a ruddyish skin. I did kind of make these look sort of kind of like a Persian army. And the history guys in the group will know that the Persian army was a very vast array of all kinds of different races. So I wanted to reflect that in the army. Here's a second unit of blunderbusses, which is identical to the first. And again, these guys can be very deadly at short range. And my hope is to maybe add a third unit of them. But I would like to get some halberdiers. There's some third-party printers out there that I would maybe like to see about finding about. The last contingent, or the last actual Chaos Dwarf, old-school Chaos Dwarf, is the dreaded Earthshaker. You can see that I kept the flag on this one because I thought it looked pretty good, with the mountain with the volcano. And it is very, very, very effective. It's effective in one page, but it really was effective back in the day because it could win you a game by having the enemy stumbling around, shaking things. So that sits back and causes mayhem while everybody else is running forward. So as you can see, there's only 2 characters and 3 units of Chaos Dwarves. The next thing we come to is the Ogre contingent. Now, this guy is a 3D printed orc. I'm not sure what the range is for him, but he's a great figure, and I love the way he came out. This guy is nasty. I had a name for him, and I kind of forgot what it is. I'm going to have to come up with him, because I like to name all my characters because I think it adds a feel to them. But he is a really cool figure. He's got a lot of detail on him. He is 3D printed, but he's in an orc range. But I use him as an ogre. I call them fire trolls. And I gave him the same ruddy skin that you'll see throughout, because I thought, you know, these guys live in mountains with volcanoes and such, so I thought they would look really good that way. He brings to the table these guys here, which I use as Iron Guts. Okay, again, same range of orcs. They've got great weapons, and these can be deadly. Anybody who knows anything about ogres knows that these guys can kick out a lot of attacks with a high AP. They can cause a lot of mayhem. So I got 4 of these, even though that they come in units of 3. I'm going to work on that. Next to these, I have a unit of ogres with great weapons. Okay, again, really good figures. This guy's got a headband on that I love. But they've got these picks that I call great weapons, because I figure the whole theme of the army is mining and going into the mountains and looking for resources and such like that. And because of that, I think these guys fit the bill completely. So he has his 2 units of ogres to protect him. Because, of course, nobody really trusts anybody in this army because they're bad guys. This is the Mountain King. Okay, I love this guy. He's relatively new. He is a fire giant from Reaper. I want to get a few more of these. I didn't put the dogs on him. I might put them on another one. I want to get a couple more of these guys. But if you look at the skin, I kept the ruddiness of the skin. I really like the way it looks. I was lectured about how fire giants are supposed to have black skin. But I thought this guy looked really good with the red skin. Okay? And I think it reflects the fact that he lives in a mountain with a volcano and such. So this guy's the Mountain King. He's relatively new. He might even be the newest guy in the army. So getting back to the dastardly sorcerer, this is Rock Lesnar. He is a greater elemental. Okay, he goes to Trilaterum, a game that a friend of mine makes. And this guy here is a greater earth elemental. He can cause a lot of problems. I'm thinking of putting him on a base, because I think I like base in my stuff, because I think it adds to it. But, I mean, as was pointed out, you got to love this. Okay? I gave that to him because I thought it made him stand out. In the past, he's caused a great deal of trouble. He can do a lot of different things. But he was raised by the sorcerer, because, again, the sorcerer is going to play a big part in this army. Next to these guys, I have the Abominations. The Abominations are part of a game that I don't know the name of it. I got a bunch of these in a trade. The only thing I would add, if I had my druthers, is I would like them to be different posed. They're all mono-posed. They're cool. And I tried to give the impression that this is a bunch of stitched together flesh and a whole bunch of dark magic that the sorcerer has used to create these guys. And as I said, they're cool figures. They're just one pose. But when I fought these a couple of weeks ago, these guys wouldn't go away. They have a 3 save, and they have 3 wounds, and they have regeneration. So they stood there, and they took a beating, and I couldn't get rid of them. They were really good. Eventually I did, but it cost me a lot of time and effort in the process. Last but certainly not least are my favorites. These are the orcs. Again, in an empire, there's going to be plenty of guys that are here that don't want to be here. Well, these guys are who we're talking about. The orcs are conquered, and if you know your Chaos Dwarf background, these were slaves. These guys are the cannon fodder in the list. They run forward. They get killed. If they get killed, we don't have to feed them. We don't have to pay them. We don't have to give them anything. And that's fine. They're going to distract the enemy, and if the enemy's shooting at them, they're not shooting at the Chaos Dwarfs. This is one of my favorite guys. This is Old Stitcher. All right? He's been around since the beginning of time, and he is the leader of the orcs as much as anybody can be the leader of a bunch of slaves. He's not Spartacus, though. He does his job, and he comes back once in a while, but most of the time these guys die. And that's okay, because, again, we don't have to do anything with them. You don't have to feed them. Last but certainly not least are the Aeroboys. These guys, I just finished them recently, and they're good at short range. Most of the time, I just use them as another unit of boys that shoot as they go across the table. I haven't put any command or anything in them yet. I might. I'm on the fence about whether I should do that, if only because they're there just to draw fire, and they're there just to get killed, actually. And again, in character with this fella here, he doesn't care whether his guys come back, okay, because he's dastardly. Like I said, look at the tusks. And so if the orcs die, he doesn't care. I suppose he would be concerned if his own guys died, but for the vast majority of this army, it's expendable because he doesn't care. Because if the ogres die, that's fine. It makes it easier for them to be controlled when the Chaos Dwarves go to the negotiating table. I suppose they wouldn't want to lose this fella because he's a unique fella, the Mountain King. My son named him the Mountain King. I love that name. So this is the first installment that we're going to try to do on a regular basis. I'm tickled pink that Gaetano rescued the Chaos Dwarves. And I understand that for a lot of guys, this violates a whole bunch of different things because it's got the ogre list, it's got the orc list, it's got the giant list, but the way we play, we use themes, and this theme is very much about an empire. And in an empire, you would have different groups of people. So, thank you very much for watching this. I hope you like it. I hope to do this on a regular basis because I have millions and millions of armies. I would like to show some of them off. And please let me know what you think. And if you know what these guys are, feel free to let us know in the comments, okay? Because I would like to know so I can at least call them by their name. All right, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. See you next time.